So thank you, all of us, for joining us today. We're just thrilled. We're thrilled that we can have this special event, that we have 5 amazing readers to share with you, including one of our founders. Yes, I'm sure many people here know that one of the poets who started the Washington Writers Publishing House 50 years ago as a poetry collective, as a hippie collective, is here with us today and still an active member, a mentor, a friend to so many of us, Grace Cavalieri. Woo! So Grace will be reading. So 50 years, 1975, Jonah. I was just a young teen. I couldn't even drive yet, but yeah. I always wanted to be a writer.
Well, I wasn't born yet. So I'm really
okay, forget it.
Just under.
Forget it. Okay, well, 50 years is a long time. It's a long time for a press like ours to survive and really thrive. In fact, many of you have heard me say this, but I'm saying it again loud and proud. The Washington Writers Publishing House is the longest continuously operating cooperative nonprofit literary small press in the United States. Woo! We are essentially volunteers, that's what cooperative means, dedicated to publishing, celebrating writers from DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and dedicated to being an inclusive, not shying away from that word, inclusive regional publishing force dedicated to amplifying the voices of a diverse cross-section of writers from our region. Yeah. Did I get it right, Jonah?
I think that's pretty good. And I just want to thank all of the writers who submitted to the anthology.
What has the Washington Writers Publishing House done with all these writers? In fact, all of you should know America's Future, Poetry and Prose in Response to Tomorrow, is our most ambitious, boldest, dare I say, most thought-provoking anthology ever. It's 164 writers, 179 creative works, and Joan, I did want it to be big.
It's very big.
It's 500
People have commented on that.
It's 526 pages.
Yes.
So, it just went on sale this past week. And Poets and Writers magazine, if anybody here reads Poets and Writers magazine, just gave us a terrific shout out. They said in their October magazine that America's Future speaks to joy and resilience amidst the political turmoil in the United States. Mm-hmm. Joy and resilience, Jonah.
I think it's good. Joy and resilience. Actually, I need to think about that for a second. So I agree. I mean, we put out this prompt before the results of the 2024 election, so we really had no idea what was going to happen, and then we extended the deadline after we knew what happened. And it's a tough one, and it became a voice, again, of resilience, protest, and really hope for us, which you'll see in a lot of these pages. I want to mention our pressmates who help us read and review over 500 submissions, and believe it or not, even with all the pages we have in the book, we couldn't include everybody. But to thank you to the readers for the poetry and for the prose, we couldn't have done it without you. Yeah. And so I'll introduce our first reader for this afternoon, and of course it's Grace Cavalieri, the wonderful, amazing Grace. Wait a minute, Grace. I have lovely things to say about you. Okay, so beautiful and generous Grace Cavalieri was Maryland's 10th Poet Laureate. She's the author of tons of books and produced plays. She's the founder and producer of The Poet and the Poem, which is out from the Library of Congress, which is amazing. Hopefully everyone subscribes to that podcast. And celebrating 48 years on the air. 250 of our poetry podcast went to the moon on the Lunar Codex from NASA, landing in the ocean of storms. How cool is that? To me, I mean, and to everyone, she's the queen bee of DMV poetry. So welcome, Grace.
I heard somebody say, is she still alive? I am, and it's all because of Caroline and Jonah. They rock the world. They rock the world. They have taken this and just spun it into an empire. Writers who help writers. Who wants to be published by anything but writers? We love you so much. Thank you so much. I'm going to read 3 poems, and the first is in the anthology. And that anthology is going to live longer than we will. Oh, I shouldn't say that about myself again. Okay. The Bird in the Crib. We didn't know what to make of it. So small and born with a hole in its heart. Yet we knew a bird was just a surround for a wound and must be cared for. We treated it like snow, that soft. We made diapers, shapeshift to hold a bird. Bottles of milk, too. I am telling you, it was our baby, and we breathed it to light. And peeking in, one early dawn, our bird was gone. After all this love, don't you know, the passersby said, birds will fly. After years of the beautiful and fantastic, rainbows and clouds where cardinals became bluebirds and eagles soared free, our bird returned, muddied and hurt, wings and legs broken. Something we could never have prevented, flight, then flying in the wrong country. One shooter even said birds should stay in their nest. And it's a miracle our bird found its way back to us. Once again, our birthright is safe in the crib, where we can tend it and remind it and begin again with tears that calm the dark, lifting the curtain to see the stars. And that's where we are today in America. We were beautiful with cardinals that turned into bluebirds, and then our bird got broken and hurt, but it's being tended now. And it will begin again with tears that calm the dark, lifting the curtain to see the stars. And we writers are going to help that happen. You're all my tribe, and this is it. You're my peeps. I mean, this is what our life force is right here in this room. And so this poem is about the tribe, and it's called, You Ask About Resistance and How We Can Keep Going. I say the tribe of soaring strangers, the curious, the blooming, Joseph Brodsky in a labor camp for writing the people's language, Adrian Rich, take ourselves more seriously, a deeper listening, cleansed of oratory and formulas. I thank them for the future. The double narratives of Louise Glick, spacious and small, for memory not yet imagined of children separated at the border. The real, the will of Ritas, Thomas, and Beulah, bringing to life more than a muse could create. You ask about resistance and how we can keep going. I say Blake's revolutionary meat on the coast glowing with blood. Words rinsed off from a corrupt court. Patricia Smith, all my fists at once. Espada, with music and Spanish rose before the bread. Praise the bread. We praise the bread of those who are our tribe and where we are strong, even those on the other side of the fence, where language flies across like unchained birds. We do all have each other, and our antecedents that we live in the memory of. My husband was very important to me. We were married 60 years, and he supported my art, and I supported his. And he actually funded the first 3 books that came out from the Washington Writers Publishing House. So every time I read something for Ken. It's called, Can I Count on You? If I were lying in a boat in a wedding gown, would you see me floating by? If I named a star after you, would you lie in the grass looking up? If I lived in a White House, would you come and sit on the front porch? If I were caught in a bad dream, would you please wake me up? If I had a plaid blouse, would you help me button it? If I could jitterbug, would you do the dirty double dip? That was Freudian. If I were a red cardinal, would you hold out a sunflower seed? If I caught all the fireflies in the world, would you give me a big jar? If the night nurse forgets to come, would you bring me a glass of water? If I have only minutes to look at the silky moon, will you come get me? Thank you.
Can we just all praise Grace? Woo! Grace Cavalieri, our founder, my friend. I love your work. And now I have the great honor of introducing Ethelbert, E. Ethelbert Miller. Because in fact, he was one of the earliest poets published by this press. His collection, Migrant Worker, was published in 1978. We have a rare copy out on our archive table. When we go out and break from here, you can take a look at it. He is a literary activist, actually honored by Representative Jamie Raskin for that in 2020. He is a man of many books, many honors, including a major upcoming honor just announced, the Reginald Lockett Lifetime Achievement Award from Penn Oakland, which he will get awarded in Berkeley, California this December. Wow. Wow, Ethelbert. So from that meeting at a high school in Rockville to here, I have stayed in awe of Ethelbert. I am thrilled that he sent us one of his collaborative poems written with the very lyrical and wonderful Mio Keenas. They've written over 500 of these two-nest poems together. And it's the first poem in America's future. I'm so looking forward to having it read, hopefully here, Ethelbert. So, E. Ethelbert Miller.
Thank you for your kind introduction. This is a book, Migrant Worker. In 1978, the Washington Writers Publishing House published my book, Migrant Worker. This is when the publishing company was located at 3445 Mount Pleasant Street, Northwest. The book titled Migrant Worker was a tribute to members of my family who were migrants moving from Barbados to Panama, finding work during the building of the Panama Canal, which opened in 1914. My father, Egberto Miller, was born in Panama in 1915. The book the Washington Writers Publishing House published back in 1978 was dedicated to my friend Janet Gaylord, who was murdered here in D.C. in the late 1970s. Her boyfriend was Ernie Dickerson, who would go on to make films with Spike Lee. The first film that Dickerson did on his own, he dedicated to my friend Janet Gaylord. The title of that movie was Juice, and introduced the film world to the rapper Tupac. Some of the poems in Migrant Worker were dedicated to such writers as Otis Williams, Amazu Bolton, Roberto Vargas, and June Jordan. There's a short poem in Migrant Worker which appears near the back of the book. It's untitled. It reads, "We are all black poets at night." This poem became very popular when it was translated into Arabic, and I read it at a festival in Abu Dhabi. The poem underscores the universality of blackness. We're all black poets at night. 50 years later, I find myself moving into a new chapter of my literary career. I've completed my baseball trilogy in 2022 when I published How I Found Love Behind the Catcher's Mask. The trilogy consists of 200 poems about baseball. In 2023, I published We Eclipse Into the Other Side, Tunis poems. This book was a collaboration with the Japanese poet and translator Miho Kinas, who is one of my best friends. One of our two poems, our Tunis poem, is the first poem in this anthology, America's Future, and I'll read that now. To write is a flower. We use the dictionary to cut the stems of our poems. Inside the vase, they blossom, paying attention to prepositions. At night, petals fall like adjectives. A stanza begins to reminisce about the past. Elders spoke of a time when people cut flowers with their tongues. It is time to remember the milky liquid that leaked from the stalks. The future sticks to our fingers, calling us to write and to flower. I want to read four other poems that Miho and I collaborated on, which I felt would be fitting with this anthology, America's Future. Eye chart for the Republic. Benjamin Franklin is looking for his glasses. He wants to check on the Declaration. Franklin is farsighted, perhaps nearsighted too. Today, America needs bifocals, states' rights or federal rights. Everything, including freedom, is becoming increasingly blurred. Franklin and our founding fathers warned us about cracked bells and the possibility of blindness. The theory of heaven and baseball. The Haitian Tigers are playing tonight. Dark clouds hover over the stadium. The world is a small ball. So many possibilities in the pitcher's grip. Arnold Schoenberg is the pitching coach. Every inning is an experiment. The great experiment was Jackie Robinson, not Satchel Paige. Beyond and before the fences of history are many theories. Only God knows why a curveball falls from heaven. At the edge of the universe, our circles can be seen from outer space. Who else is looking? Do we have an answer? There is a concert taking place somewhere between Jupiter and Saturn. We bought the tickets 3 years ago. The balcony is where Pluto once sat next to Neptune. Tambourines are shaking, rockets are blasting by. We stare beyond the edge of space. We are listening for our ears. They are wide open like telescopes. And this last poem that Miho and I wrote together is entitled Water Blues. Our democracy is turning into plastic. We are choking. These are dangerous times to be fish or whale. They are gerrymandering the ocean. They want to reassemble the 7 seas. Don't be a minnow. And this last poem is a poem I wrote back in December. It's called The News. I was in Mississippi, somewhere near Clarksdale, when I got word Jacob Lawrence had finished his migration series. I felt like a Pullman porter stepping off a train into a riot. My torn hat flew off my head and headed north. I was left feeling confused, as if I were inside a Bearden collage made from pages taken from the Chicago Defender. My overalls no longer fit, and my sharecropping days were coming to an end. Thank you.
Beautiful poems. Thank you, thank you. Our next reader is Kathleen Wheaton, who I first met Kathleen at her house when I won the Gene Feldman Poetry Prize for my collection, and she later came to my book launch to introduce me. Kathleen is one of the kindest people you'll ever meet, also very generous and brilliant, and I totally adore her. Kathleen lived in Bethesda, Maryland for 25 years, working as a journalist and a Spanish and Portuguese interpreter. Her collection, Aliens and Other Stories, received the 2013 WWPH Fiction Prize, and she was president of the press from 2014 to 2022. I hope we got that right. And now she is currently a Stegner Fellow at Stanford University. Welcome, Kathleen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonah, and thanks to both Caroline and Jonah for everything you've done to just create this wonderful new chapter for Washington writers. I'm going to read a story which is not about America's future, but there is a lot of reference to dictatorships of the past. It's called Rapido. In Madrid, Buddy and I lived on the money I earned teaching English and the fumes of an inheritance from his Texas grandmother. He wasn't lazy. He simply felt he didn't have a moment to lose. He was studying classical guitar with a maestro who was 80, the same age as the century. Buddy had discovered his instrument late in college, and at 23, he practiced 10 hours a day. We lived on the top floor of a bleak high-rise near the soccer stadium. At night, the roar of the spectators came in through the windows. However, the place had advantages. It was a short bus ride to the house where Maestro lived with his wife, Doña Amparo, and down the street from the office building where I taught executive English. My students were all men, courtly and dapper, their suit jackets worn draped over their shoulders like matador capes. One of them asked me out. I told him I lived with my boyfriend. But you are free, my student said. Divorce wasn't legal in Spain, he explained, though now that there was democracy, the law was expected to change. The divorce courts will be mobbed, he said. Are you getting divorced? I asked. Not me, he laughed. I got off work at 6, and Buddy practiced until 7, so I'd walk slowly home through a park dedicated to General Perón, the former dictator of Argentina. Now that the Spanish dictator, General Franco, was also dead, protesters had splashed the statue of his old friend with red paint. Perón appeared to accept this expression of public opinion benignly, his splattered hands blessing the pigeons, the dusty sycamores, the children on the monkey bars. Buddy and I usually ate dinner at a cafeteria at the end of our block, where cheap, filling platos combinados were served at formica tables under fluorescent lights. Sometimes I could persuade him to walk a mile south to a lovely old plaza where the stone buildings with their wrought iron balconies looked like crooked teeth undergoing orthodontia. There was an inexpensive bodega in the plaza with a zinc bar and exposed rafters where you could get the same meal as at the cafeteria, ham with fried eggs and potato salad, but in more picturesque surroundings. See, isn't this nicer, I'd say, and Buddy would agree because if I was happy, he was happy. He often said so. One night at the bodega, we were befriended by a German couple. They were a few years older than us, touring Spain by car. Hans was big, blonde, and jovial. Elsa was shy and pretty. Her English was fluent, though whenever she spoke, red circles appeared on her cheeks. They invited us to a glass of the wine they were drinking, and I explained why we were in Madrid. Are you musical too? Hans asked me. No, I said. Into this silence, Elsa said they planned to visit 2 Romanesque churches in the countryside the next day and would we like to join them. We'd love to, I said quickly, though I guessed Buddy didn't want to. He hated to miss even one day of practice. So as we walked home that night, I kept coming up with arguments for why we should go, and he kept reassuring me it was fine. Still, I felt bad. Buddy's talent and promise were such that Maestro had come out of retirement to teach him. Due to precarious elderly health, Doña Amparo sometimes called to postpone the weekly lesson. The telephone in our apartment rang for no other reason. So when Elsa phoned to say they were leaving their hotel and would be outside our building in 15 minutes, I felt that a new phase of life in Spain was beginning. It had been 6 months since I'd ridden in a private car, and it seemed magical, even futuristic, to be sailing along the highway in an air-conditioned Mercedes, the high, dry plains of Castile flashing by the passenger window. Hans drove fast, deftly overtaking any vehicle that appeared before us. We arrived at the first church, and he called out, 10 minutes. He and Elsa lingered in the car, maybe to have a moment of privacy, but Buddy and I got out and walked around. When we returned to the car, they were already, or still, inside, the motor running. At the next church, we all got out together. Elsa translated from a German guidebook that exhorted us to visit the underground crypt, which housed 3 child martyrs, supposedly killed by Jews. But that rumor was false, the guidebook added. The carvings on their little tombs were worn soft by many hands. While we were down there in the semi-darkness, our hosts disappeared. We returned to the parking lot as Hans was backing down the gravel driveway, the passenger doors ajar as if we were fleeing a bank heist. The hurry turned out to be that they had noon reservations at a monastery that had been converted to a fancy restaurant. It was early for lunch in Spain, and the vast dining room was empty except for the white-jacketed waiters standing silent along the stone walls. The padded leather menus offered bodega food at thousands of pesetas a plate. "We're inviting you," Hans said. We didn't have enough money with us to argue. He consumed most of a second bottle of wine, and after lunch drove even faster. We were up in the mountains now, careening around blind curves. We asked him to slow down, and he did for a minute or two. Finally, Elsa spoke up in German. His reply made her shrink back in her seat, her face crimson. As we approached a village, I suggested that we stop for coffee. My idea was that Buddy and I could make an excuse, catch a bus home. Instead, Hans sped up. At the sign for the next village, I said, "Could we stop up here, please? I have to go to the bathroom." He drove through at breakneck speed. "You can hold it," Hans said, "unless, do you have your period or diarrhea that would mess up my car?" "Don't be an asshole, man," Buddy said. "She asked you to stop." Hans slammed on the brakes. We were in the middle of a forest. "Get out," he said. Elsa didn't turn around as the Mercedes sped away. We were ankle deep in leaves like wet cornflakes. "I'm sorry," I said. I began to cry. Buddy put his arm around me. "We'll hitch to the next village and catch a bus from there," he said. The driver of a banana truck picked us up. We told him our destination was Madrid, and he said if we went by bus, we'd be traveling for days. So he'd drop us in a town with a train station. He gave each of us a banana. The slow train that stopped everywhere was called the Rapido. The name wasn't a joke. It must have been the latest in transport when Franco was a young dictator. We got tickets for Madrid and then strolled around the plaza, holding hands like the Spanish couples. We became hungry again and bought potato omelet sandwiches and ate sitting cross-legged on the ground, something Spanish people never did. We went to the station an hour early. Night had fallen, and we could hear crickets chirping and faraway dogs barking. Whenever we heard the whistle of an approaching train, Buddy would stand on the edge of the platform and peer down the tracks. This made me nervous. "If it's an express train, it won't stop," I said, "and if it's the Rapido, it will." "You're right," he smiled, but he kept doing it. He was that eager to get back. But I'm free, I thought. And in that suspended time called waiting, I imagined my future in which I would leave Buddy. This happened almost exactly as I foresaw it. We stayed in touch, though, mostly by postcard, even after the invention of email. I sent a postcard whenever I moved to a new city. I wrote when I got married, and again when we moved to Cuernavaca, and also after I published my first short story about an English teacher in Spain ardently pursued by her married student. I didn't send Buddy the story. He wrote when he got a tenured job at the University of Texas, and then a year later when he married an oboist. He didn't answer my effusive congratulatory note, and I wondered if it had offended him. I'd been married 7 years by then, had 2 children born in Mexico. At our going-away party several months later, one of the guests brought a friend who was a professor at UT. Excitedly, I asked if he knew Buddy, or the oboist, whose name was Leonora. The professor looked dismayed. "I guess you don't know," he said. Buddy and Leonora had been killed in a car crash in downtown Austin 2 months earlier. I went and sat on the diving board of the pool at our friend's house where the party was being held. After a few minutes, my husband came and sat beside me. I knew that Maestro had died long ago, and now I thought about Doña Amparo in her black house dress in that dark old house in Madrid, her carpet slippers swishing as she came to answer the door. If Doña Amparo were alive now, she'd be 98, I said. "She could be alive," said my husband, whose grandmother was 101. "I sure hope I don't outlive you," he added. I slid off the end of the diving board in my party clothes. When Buddy and I boarded the Rapido, it was jammed with teenage soldiers. Military service was still obligatory in Spain. We fell asleep sitting up in the smoky compartment. When I woke, it was morning, and the train was stopped in a field. Buddy was gone. Then I saw him standing in the corridor, his arms folded on the top of the open window. I went out, and he showed me what he was looking at, storks flopping up in the down in the wheat like marionettes. Oh, here was a rare moment in which I didn't want or expect or regret anything. The train lurched forward, and his long dark hair stirred in the breeze. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Kathleen Wheaton was and is such a mentor to Jonah and I. So, my friends, we have 2 more readers, and the next one is Erica Raskin, a writer, a fiction editor at Streetlight Magazine in Charlottesville, and a true literary citizen. I was thrilled when she submitted a piece of flash fiction to us earlier in the year, and we read, it's called Complicity, and we published it in WWPH Writes, our online literary magazine. And then she said, "I also have an essay," and I said, "I'll take that too," and it's in America's Future. I know she wants to read her fiction today, Complicity, but I am thrilled that I have found a sister in the literary world too, a big sister like me, a woman who writes what she worries about. That's in her bio. She writes what she worries about. Her most recent novel, Allegiance, and I think we have a few copies for sale out when we break. Her most recent novel, Allegiance, is about fascism coming here. I'm reading it now. It's a must-read. It was written well before the election, but it's really asks how far can any family go to protect themselves. And it has a dog named Carrie Nation. So I am thrilled to give the podium to an amazing writer, a new friend in the literary world for me, Erica Raskin.
Lissy's already dressed, her dolls arranged next to the bed in the space that is sometimes a boat, sometimes a park, and often a doctor's office. The toys are all hues, different nationalities, from newborn to school age, with sizes that don't really make sense when placed next to each other. The two Barbies, who were inexpertly gifted to my daughter, live in the closet. Their bazooms, career ensembles, and matching footwear are of no interest to the kindergartner. "Hello, little girl," I say. "Hello, little mother," she smiles. "Whoa, why does Susan have all those Band-Aids on? What happened?" "Nothing, she's just pretending." "Doing the drama queen thing again?" "Yeah." "Well, maybe next time, though, sweetie, she shouldn't use the whole box, okay? Just in case you or I need one." "Okay, but sometimes she won't listen, though." "I understand. Cereal or French toast?" "I had cereal yesterday, Mommy." "So French toast?" "No, cereal." "Got it. Make sure you wear a sweater today. It's absolutely freezing." "I'm so very tired of winter, Mommy. It's not cozy like before Christmas. Now it's just dark. It makes me feel alone." "Oh, honey, you're not alone. I'm here." "Daddy's not." "I know. Brain cancer isn't fair." "It's not." "Can Mila come over this weekend?" "I didn't know before, but she's very fun to play with in the dress-up corner." "Oh, good idea. Let's ask her mother at the bus stop." "Chop, chop." "What's that mean, Mommy?" "I have no idea." 20 minutes later, we're approaching a multicolored collection of parkas, jumping around to keep warm. "Mommy," offspring, "yesterday in music, Mrs. Miller was ugly to Mila." "What do you mean?" "When she asked to go to the water fountain because she had hippos." "What's that?" "It's when you have hiccups in a different language." "But then Mrs. Miller told her to speak English, and she said illegals are vermins and drains." "Jesus, honey, that was very unkind. I'll say something to the principal." "That'd be good, but maybe don't say who told you." "Oh, there's Mila. Hey, can we have a sleep under instead of just a regular play date?" "What's a sleep under?" "It's like a sleep over, but everybody sleeps in their own bed after pizza." "Five's not old enough to be away from mothers at night." "And then we would have breakfast together the next day." Louisa told all about how to do it in sharing circle. A black van is idling at the bus stop, effectively blocking the pickup area. Its presence is confusing. "Mommy, Mila's mother isn't here. How can we make arrangements?" "Well, maybe she'll be here this afternoon at drop." "Mommy, wait, what are they doing, those men? Why is he picking her up like that? Mommy, stop him. Mila's scared." My heart begins pounding. It's a raid. The child's scream is the sound of abject terror. It's bottomless. She's trying to kick free of the jackbooted agent. Either embarrassed or hurt by the response, he uses the inside of his elbow to get compliance. The other kids start running. I'm the only adult present. A car passes honking, the passenger sticking his head out hooting. Everything feels hyper-real and underwater. Lissy's hysterical. "What are you doing? Stop it," I command. "Government business, lady. Mind your own." "Let go of her. She's 5, for Christ's sake. She has a bloody nose." "Lady, you have 3 seconds to back off before I take you and your kid in, too. And trust me, you don't want that."
Thank you, Erica. So this is our last performer that we have for you. Sorry, I just wanted to show the pictures, what the poems actually look like on the page, but of course I wasn't prepared and I can't find them now. But our next presenter is J.B. Arris. J.B. Arris is a queer author, multidisciplinary performer, and witch. With an MFA from the University of New Orleans and a BA from Johns Hopkins University. The author of Tea Leaves, Arris has worked in Taco Bell Quarterly and many anthologies, including Unbound Edition, Mason Jar Press, and the Walters Art Museum. So we're giving you a full spectrum of this book this afternoon, everyone. Right? So we've gone through the poetry, the essay, the fiction, and now we give you something a little bit different as an interpretation of the poems by J.B. Arris. And when we read their work for this book, when it came in through Submittable, we knew that we had to have it, and we are very excited to see the representation of the work this afternoon. J.B. Arris, the floor is yours.
Who, me, dressed like this in front of all these people? Well, thank you so much, Jonah and Caroline, for giving me the opportunity to make you regret that you invited me. This is the second reading I've done this week where somebody wrote about divorce, and I changed my name recently, so I like to say right now every performance I do is about divorce from my assigned sex. So, niche shift. Proboscis monkeys with cocks for noses screech in search of mates, frowning full fathom 5 as their children flirt with crocodile jaws from low branches. Cut off from you, I, like Borneo, after glacial melt sunk its land bridges, develop highly specialized forms of life that make little sense outside of isolation. I fry eggs atop spinach salads at midnight. I grade papers and argue about consent on Grindr at 1 a.m. I masturbate while listening to China Mieville audiobooks or while dreaming of binge-eating Crunch Wrap Supremes. I light incense to gods no one's worshipped in millennia. I am a fat-bottomed pitcher plant catching what I can in my wide mouth. Together, we grew at the speed of Mount Kinabalu, 5 millimeters per year, but alone I have suffered, quote, a sea change into something rich and strange, drowned in my own disappointment. Each year, the sky weeps a Pacific Ocean's worth of rain over Borneo. I'll let that sink in. Somewhere, a sea change, warm winter days. I swear tonight will finally be the night I really stop comparing this genuine climate crisis to my personal life. Midnight strikes. Invariably, I am wrong. Somewhere, eyes become pearls, bones become coral. Somewhere, barnacles creep up the shell of someone's home as they lose it to the rising sea. Somewhere, you are breaking someone else. Here, I imagine who I'll be when the glacial flood recedes and I am finally ready to be out in the world wearing all the weird clothes I bought to get me through quarantine. Thank you. Fake shells, vegan leathers, slinky psychedelic dresses sewn for women half my size, angular glasses that protect my eyes from the sunshine, not at all. A pair of spiked loafers I imagine wearing when someone mugs me so I can tear him open for what you did to me. A pair of thigh-high stripper heels. You can clap for that one. Nude shapewear for men. The only fast thing about my fashion is the speed with which I regret it when I don't hit buy. The only fast thing about a glacier is the thunder crack of its breaking or the speed with which, geophysically speaking, man spread his heat to shrink it. The only fast thing about us was the speed with which I shrank beneath you or the speed with which, to the internet, to your friends and mine, you became the victim when I finally broke away. In time, life will grow, quote, rich and strange when all the glaciers melt and the deserts spread and the lake beds dry. But you never did want to talk about the future, the reckoning, the day land bridge becomes ocean ridge and forest thriving becomes island. his yellow bedspread and licking parts of you he knows you are not awake enough to say no to, not strong enough to overpower.
Who would have known that a boy like him would have entered me lightly, restoring my bliss?
Shallow as his waters run, drowns what candles you've lit, flickering over your
Who would
sunset.
have known that a boy like him, after sharing my core, would stay going nowhere?
Your chest, your thighs, where he took from you your golden light, but you hear only his
Who would have
voice.
known a beauty this immense? Who would have known a saintly trance? Who would have known miraculous breath to inhale a beard loaded with courage? Who would have known that a boy like him, possessed of magical sensitivity,
Yet another gig no one came to, at least not to see him, to climb him.
would approach a girl like me who caresses, cradles his head in her
There's a red bridge, a word for people
bosom.
like you who leap in their daydreams and wake before hitting the concrete surface of the bay.
He slides inside, half awake, half asleep. We feign back into sleep. When I wake up the second time in his arms, gorgeousness is still inside me. Who would have known? Who would have known? A train of pearls, cabin by cabin, is shot precisely across an ocean. From a mouth of a girl like me to a boy, to a man like him.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Eris. Didn't we want something different? Something that shook us up? Something that challenged us?
Absolutely. Totally wonderful.
Thank you, Eris. Wow.
So thank you all. It's been a wonderful afternoon. And
Yes. It's not over.
it's not over. It's not over. So we invite you to, I want all the readers to stay so readers don't leave, and we'll come and get you for some pictures. But please enjoy our literary libations.
Literary libations, live jazz, light refreshments, and the best thing, a literary community that really cares and wants to make a difference.
Absolutely. And of course, sorry, this thing. And of course, we have books for sale.
Yes.
If you need that, we have lots of things happening in the reading room.
Yes, so thank you all. Thank you
you
for
very
being
much.
the
Enjoy.
best group ever.